Now that we've got our first layer done, let's do our second pass. I'm going to go, I think, generally in the same order that we went in. I see in the upper left area of our still life image that there are some warm highlights kind of coming out. So I'm going to try to add some of those and see what it looks like. I'm going to start with this number 3 in our value. And I don't quite know what texture or movement's going to really work yet. So I'm just going to put something in and see. Try to find those spots where I see it. And then let's pick up a little bit of our number 4 value. That was what we originally used. And I'm just going to let them blend together a little bit in a messy way. You know, it doesn't need to be like a really soft, beautiful blend. I'm thinning my paints again, but not as much as I did the first time around. Now I'm kind of going for, you know, if the first pass was the most thin, this is right in the middle, and then we'll work with the most opaque, the thickest. Okay. Don't get too worried about these areas yet. We're going to come back to those things. Okay. Cleaning my brush again. This still feels pretty good to me. I might bring a little bit of my lightest light in. I know the light source is coming in from the top left, well, a little lower from this angle here. And I know from experience that whatever's closest to the light is going to be the lightest. So this side of the tabletop, I'm just going to add a little bit of this. I see it in the image, but it's not too obvious. But I know that that's going to look nice. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that in and let it be kind of messy. Bring that second number 2 value, which was what we originally used. I bring this in and try to cover up some of the little white spots that I left behind. We'll worry about defining this shape a bit more. Well, we could do some of that now. We don't want to get too caught up in it. I see a fold there. Then this. Let's see, this area turns upward. This turns up. There's a bit of a shadow in there. We'll get to that. This moves across. That comes up. That's okay for now. That looks fine. Add a little bit more light in there. Clean my brush again. Before we get to the fabric, I think we should deal with a little bit of the depth in these objects. Let's go for our biggest changes first. So remember, we're always working big shapes first and then gradually smaller and smaller. We're also looking for some of the biggest value contrasts first. And eventually we'll get down to those more, the finer value contrasts. But we'll start with the biggest differences. So let's pick out, I'm going to go with my medium. This is the number 4 on my scale. And I want to define some of this edge. Remember, there's a little bit of reflected light I can see there, so I'm not going to paint on top of that with this green. I'm just going to block in a big area where I see a big change in value. I see a change here. And notice how I'm using my brush sideways to get a line, so you don't need to use a round brush to get a line. It's actually harder to get a clean line from a round brush. So let's block some of this in. Just gonna go ahead and draw that because it helps me kind of keep track of everything. Pick up a little bit more paint. I got to get this shadow, the cast shadow. Let's get that. Just use the same value we used before. Okay, now let's just really vaguely block out some of these cool shapes on here. I'm not going to get too perfect about it. I want to fill in these values. If you want to leave a little bit of that lighter value of this value right here, that's okay. Help you keep track of things. If you don't want to lose the edge for now. Let's see that. What else? A little bit here. I'm just going to plug it in so I can keep track. Oh, and there's a round bit here. Just going to make a little dot. Doesn't need to be perfect. I see in the backdrop here. Let's go with our medium dark. Bit of a cast shadow here. Remember to keep cleaning your brush periodically as you need it. Let's see, there's a little bit of a glare on this image for you. I don't want that. Yeah. That's just gonna happen, I guess. Okay. I'm gonna correct a few things that I'm seeing here, this leaning. Sort of leaning. Expand that a little bit. Remember your ellipses. Mine is not great, but we'll keep working on it. Pull in my medium dark here. Clean it just a little bit. Okay, Now I think we should deal with some of the value changes in this fabric. In the image, the overall fabric looks kind of green overall. But remember, we're working with this really limited palette. So anything in terms of value that's lighter than our mid-tone here is going to be warm. So this is an opportunity for you to really pick apart what's happening in terms of light on that fabric. I see some lighter areas on the fabric. And since they're lighter than this mid-tone, I have to use a warm color. I see this kind of coming down here. It's okay if they mix together, if yours is still a little wet. Just let it be kind of loose. And this has an interesting triangular shape right here. Don't get too detailed yet. We're going to add the darker values into it in a minute. You just want to try to find the right spots. I think I kind of missed something in here. I think there should be some darker areas around this. I'm just going to paint the highlights into it.